Hey guys, I'm a little bit late today. I overslept. That has been happening a lot lately since I don't have to get up at 5:45 every morning for school. Not that I wasn't supposed to get up earlier than that. So this is Monday Minutes. I do this will be my third week in a row of deciding that I just really needed to share the things that I had been encountering, things that had been revealed to me on this whole journey of using emotional oils to get out of my own way, to stop being my own biggest obstacle. I planned on talking about optimism this week. I planned on talking about everything that I've learned about myself as the incurable optimist. But if you want to hear about that, you're going to have to wait till next week, because this week is confirmation. I have been using my frankincense, my Sarah, Awaken. I have Surrender coming in the mail, but Valor, Stress Away. I've been using everything that I had because there's been so many spiritual battles going on, and I've spoken about those. I'm not going to rehash all of that, but I noticed the more I learn about my own perspective and the way that I approach life and the way that I see things now and the clarity, that God has a sense of humor, which I already knew that. And he kind of likes to give us opportunities to laugh at ourselves, because it had really, really been on my heart these last few days. We'll say probably like Thursday, I said, I have trained my children. I'm so worried about training my children into being decent, God-loving, God-fearing, productive members of society, that I failed to realize that moment to moment we are training them. And I've spoken before on how we tended to be reactive, and that was one thing that I was not going to be anymore. I decided that I was going to retrain myself from what I had been practicing for several years. It has been on my heart that we were better parents to our two boys before we had two more children. And simply because I didn't train myself to take each moment by moment and be patient, and every moment being a learning moment, and it's frustrating. So God really put on my heart that my oldest, because our oldest is my stepson, that my oldest, who's 9, who is so much like me, needed me more right now than it's a pivotal moment, I'll put it that way. And so I promised God while praying before I went to bed that I was going to be a better mom. I was going to stop reacting. I was going to take the moments that I had and horrible waves and waves and waves of just static and frustration, and I was out of coffee, it was a horrible day, and I had to literally take myself every single moment and say, it's not that big of a deal, Becky, just calm down, it's not the kids' fault, all of these things. And I had also begun to individually pray for each of my children and their spouses every single day, throughout the day. Every time it popped in my head, that was my new thing. And so I started praying individually for all of their needs, for all of their provision, that they would be free of the attacks that a lot of children are under these days, attacks that I was under as a child, that my parents didn't even know what was happening, that my children wouldn't have to struggle with that, right? So all day, frustrating, but I'm working through it. I haven't yelled at anybody. I've taken each moment as a learning moment. I'm thinking that I'm being the ideal parent. And my brother calls me while I'm cooking supper, and he told me something that broke me. He said, his first sentence was, you had 2 miscarriages, right? Yeah. You need to be praying for them too. You are doubly blessed. You have 2 children on earth for every one that you have in heaven, but they are your children too, and they need you too. Yo, I couldn't do anything but stand in my kitchen and cry. I literally, not that I was feeling as if I was a failure at all. But I tend to think of those children as provided for. We named them. Their names are Jordan and Riley. Riley was between Caleb and Jonah, and Jordan was between Jonah and Libby. And I tend to think of them as being with God. So what do they need from me? What can I possibly have to offer that He hasn't already given them? And so to know that God, now mind you, I'm going to add, I did not talk to my brother at all about that. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't tell my husband about this, about my change in the way that I approached parenting through prayer. And to have my brother, who has a very interesting past, he's a newly born Christian. He actually was saved while he was in jail. He has been out of jail, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little less than a month, maybe right at a month. And he's always struggled. He's always, he's had a lot of obstacles. And he opened his heart to God in jail. He was completely provided for in ways that only God can provide for you while you're in jail with a limited budget and an outrageous commissary costs and family who are on restricted income who can't do anything for you. And he was outrageously blessed. He was, guided to mentors. He had people show up to pastor him in church, other inmates who had learned and said, you can't do this. Your kids are too young, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to guide you. And so the fact that I've had my brother back for less than a month, and I'm fixing dinner plates, and I'm minding my own business, and he calls me and confirms to me that God has heard my prayers about my children, and checkmate, pray for the ones that you don't get to hold. Pause. What, Jonah? What, Jonah? Yes, you may, Jonah. It's supposed to be nap time. They're not napping. So, I mean, parenting is real. It happens, right? So, the fact that God cared enough about me and enough about my struggle that is so small compared to everyone else's, everything else that everybody and their mama goes through on a daily basis. And he took the time to send me a message through my brother, who is a baby Christian, which is even more confirmation. And it just so happened that I was watching my brother's children this weekend because him and their mom both had to work. I mean, what else do you need to have any kind of proof that he hears you, that he hears your prayers, no matter how small? Sure, I could figure it out by myself. I probably wouldn't do a great job of it, but by him coming to me and him confirming to me that he heard my plea for my brother to call me on break while he's working nights and tell me a little something extra that I could add, a big something extra. Those souls are mine. And they were wanted and they were loved, and that just because they're not under my care doesn't mean that they don't need from me, is a consolation, because as a parent, you want to think that you can provide everything that they need. You want to think that you can be this superhero in their eyes, and when you can't have them for yourself, what exactly do you ask for? How do you ask for God to show them, compassion and patience and teach them how to grow up to be men when that's not their walk? That's not anything that they're going to fulfill. So my prayer was that God would let them know that they were loved and that they were anticipated and that they were a joy, that they are still a joy, that their siblings know about them, that I don't have to stress and worry about their provision because I know that they're in the ultimate place. And if it wasn't for confirmation, as terrible as it is, that probably wouldn't have been my prayer. so that was my walk this week, and that was not anything that I planned on sharing, but it was so mind-blowing that it needed to be said. It needs to be said that confirmation isn't always going to be what you expect it to be. Confirmation isn't always going to be, okay, well, here's the answer to all your prayers. Your children are going to grow up to be mighty men. They're going to have their own church. They're never going to have to struggle with any kind of sexual sin, adultery, addictions, none of these things. Okay, well, problem solved. Let's move on to the next person. Prayer isn't the lottery. Prayer isn't, all right, I'm going to scratch this off. It's going to tell me what I'm going to get, and I'm going to move on. You don't get those kinds of trends. Sometimes it's amazing and very, very clear. And sometimes, most of the time, it's not as simple as knowing exactly what you're going to get. And so I just wanted to share my story of confirmation this week. That absolutely was a blessing and a struggle and a pain, and at the same time something that I realized that I had never actually dealt with. I'm really bad for being the person who says, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about that. That's over with, and not actually addressing it. So I'm going to encourage you to look for the confirmation in your life. I'm going to encourage you to look for all the ways that your prayers are being responded to that you don't see, because there's so many other factors at play, or because we want things to be black and white. There are so many amazing shades of gray in the spiritual world in reference to our answers and our protection and our provision and the ways that He is here for us in ways that we can never imagine. So I'm going to challenge you this week to assess your spiritual life. I'm going to challenge you, if you have frankincense, oh my Jesus, put frankincense. If you have awaken, if all you have is stress away, apply it to your person wherever you feel like you need it. Think about where you are. Look at your perspective. Look at where you have been and how you got where you are today. It's so easy to take things at face value because we don't like to take the time to really analyze things, unless it's something someone else is doing and they were more than happy to analyze the heck out of it. But just take this week, email me, text me, comment on the video if you're feeling so inclined, PM me. I would love to hear what you guys are walking through, if I can help you. I'm not a preacher, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a person who's going through life on their own journey, who is learning as we go, and we're learning together. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to say that whoever's watching this right now, there's a great anointing on your life that you don't even know about. All those distractions that are coming at you are there to stop you from what you are capable of. You and you alone have a job to do that no one else can. We can help you, but we can't make you do it. So that's pretty much it for today. If you need anything, if you are in my area and you want to stop by and have coffee one day, if you want to talk, just feel free to message me, because there is so much more to this daily life thing that we don't know about. And I really hope that I've been able to help you today. I really hope that you guys are seeing some confirmation. I'm hoping that you guys can see it for what it is. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday. And unless something else comes upon my heart, then we will be talking about optimism. Y'all have a great day, and I'm sorry I was late.